And today I Zoom across from Cape Town to London. There is Paul Rands. Paul is the MD of the Future of Hospitality Institute. And the Future of Hospitality Institute is what exactly? Paul will tell us. Paul, hello, how are you?
Hi, Niels. I'm very well. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you so much. I'm very well. I'm really glad that I grabbed you because you just joined the PKF Hospitality Group very recently, and you didn't have a moment to settle in. You started running, what you're running is the Future of Hospitality Institute, and I believe there's a first project which is Future Living. Now, are
That's
you
right.
trying to teach us how to live, or what is this all about?
Well, we can always learn, Niels, of course. We can always learn. Are we trying to teach how to live? We're not, but actually what we're keen to explore and understand is where the trends in the way that people are living are changing. And I think we've already seen that. And that's certainly really at the core of what we want to look at with this research project.
And living, I mean, when I chatted to you first, because to pretend that this is the first chat that we're having would be a bit silly. You are a colleague. We haven't met yet in real life, but virtually we met before, hopefully in real life very soon. So I do know that we've been working, we had this living experts that we looked at, and I believe this is very much part of it. How would you describe the subject matter, if I can call it that? I mean, where's the focus of this institute going to lie in terms of what it is? And maybe you can also, if I can throw that in, maybe you can also tell us where. Is it something which is Eurocentric? Is it something which is British Isles? Because judging by your accent, you're definitely from there. Or is it something global, being a global company that we are?
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly global. I mean, if I step back from the living piece for a second and just talk about the Future of Hospitality Institute. So PKF Hospitality Group set up Future of Hospitality Institute at the end of last year. It's a think tank focused on the wider hospitality sector. So it can cover hotels, living, tourism, leisure. Our mission, I think we all have to have a mission, but our mission really is to work with industry stakeholders and look to help them understand what are trends within the hospitality space and how they can respond to that in a meaningful way that's appropriate to their business. And we see the opportunity for us as a think tank to facilitate, I think, probably open-mindedness and thought leadership around the hospitality space, particularly around innovation and how things are changing. I've been involved with hospitality throughout my career, and I think it's why am I still here 25 years on? I think because it never ceases to amaze with its ability to innovate. And I think it is, as well as being a great fun industry to be in, it's a real leader, I think, in terms of innovation. So for me, really exciting opportunity to come in and lead this and work with, really interesting stakeholders throughout the hospitality industry. And to really understand what comes next. What can we learn from what we already know, but what can we learn from other industries, and how can we apply that in a way that we'll see the future emerging within the space?
Yeah, look, I think the recent and some people would say what is recent, it's still ongoing crisis that Corona brought about has seen certain accommodation establishments like hotels. There's a new word that we all learned, pivoting. We pivoted, we changed things and looked at how can we do that. I think there was a bit of an acceleration of the trends that you're talking about. And and when we spoke first, I think it's personally, I think it's a fantastic idea to make this an institute, to make this a research project, because I often ask myself whether the innovation that we've seen just happened to happen, or whether it was planned and researched, I believe in the former, that it just kind of happened and somebody says, well, let's have some apartments and then we throw in a little bit of a service and suddenly we've got serviced apartments. Then what else can we add? So we've done the concierge, which in America, I mean, when you look at America, I have some friends in New York and I was always amazed, oh, they've got a doorman, but the doorman isn't just a doorman, he's like a concierge. He quotes you taxis, he sometimes in slightly higher market or better markets, he makes reservations for restaurants and certainly looks after your mail and whatever. It's that kind of thing that started happening in apartments now in Europe and in other markets as well. So the service living aspect came in there. Again, as I said, is it really the marrying of hospitality and residential, or is it the evolution of residential? I think that's the question that you're looking to find out a bit more, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you make some very good points there about how perhaps the service living area has accelerated through the pandemic. There's no doubt about it that I think it's highlighted the advantages that something like a service department or an extended stay product can provide. That low touch, the ability to stay somewhere longer where people have needed to do that, whether they're key workers and need to be close to hospitals, or whether they just couldn't travel as regularly and as easily as before, so it's easier to stay longer in one place. And I think there are signs and indicators actually that from a business travel perspective in the future, that may be how things change, that actually people will stay longer than they did previously, because actually that not only are you mitigating, limiting the sort of traveling, but actually from a cost perspective, I think businesses have realized that they can save quite a bit of money by not traveling. So how do you marry the two to work in that? And I think extended stay helps that. If you kind of track back a little bit further, and I've come from a background more recently within the service department and apart hotel world. I worked for a company called Bridge Street for 7 years, and Bridge Street was very focused on corporate clients and business travel, and that business evolved through the 1990s. I think was sort of when it started to come about, and that was about meeting demand with a solution. And that demand was, well, hey, look, I'm in London, or I'm in Washington, or elsewhere for longer periods of time to work, and I need somewhere to stay that's more than a hotel. And so people were coming together and finding apartments, and then companies were formed from that, and then they evolved into something more sophisticated. Yeah. If you look at Bridge Street in London, it started off with two young guys just trying to find apartments, and then ended up into a business where they were taking whole buildings that behave like hotels. So I think that's naturally evolved, but it's kind of driven by demand, as things always are. And then the sophistication starts to happen. So you realize that actually you've got to do more than just provide a space, you've got to provide an experience. And then you come into the idea of branding and starting to give something a familiar feel, particularly if you're starting to be international and in multiple locations. And so out of that then develops a further improvement and in terms of the levels of service and what people are expecting. Equally, then you see new innovators coming into the space who kind of recognize the advantages of it. And some have gone and done research. Zoku is a good example of where they went and thoroughly researched before they came out with their brand. So I think there's a mixture of the two. You're absolutely right in terms of the service living, and the way that we describe service living is this coming together of residential and hospitality. But it's also meeting that demand and that changing need that's somewhere in between the two. Beyond that sort of 1 or 2 night hotel stay, and beyond somewhere where I permanently live. There's now a large cohort of the population that is behaving differently and therefore requires something different. And that's where we see the service living sector, and there are subsectors within that, of course, which run from student right through to senior living, it is a real growth area. And that's why it's absolutely appropriate that for us, that's our first project that we're going to do from Future of Hospitality.
Yeah, I find it incredibly exciting because it also, to me at least, answers a question that I had over many years when I said to people, why does it have to be a building which is a hotel and a building which is an apartment, or which is, I mean, why cannot not be in one building? I mean, there's so many big buildings where you've got now all sorts of, and why can we not mix? And we are doing it here and there, but I think it is something which could be, I believe, you know, with the research that you're doing, a lot more focused to actually say, all right, we've got now something which used to have, I don't know, 500 units, and now we can say out of those 200 are hotel rooms, we turn 200 into 100 slightly bigger apartments, and they're micro apartments. So all that, and you could also, as an owner, you could also change the use or adapt it and say, okay, fine, this now will be a full service product because the season is so good that I do this for short stay and I make it a full service product. Or so that this, again, this pivoting makes it so much easier depending on seasonality, depending on the market itself, and rates that you can ask for, and how to take a core product as a room or a micro apartment and add things on that are not necessarily furniture or layout related, but they're service related, and you plug them in, and you then increase the revenue through the mix of services that you're offering. I think that there's lots of stuff to be done, and also as a traveler, when I travel to destinations, I wish there was more of that in the mix, where I can also, you know, utilize certain services on a need basis and so forth, and not be categorized all the time. So if I want to have a gym or a spa, sometimes maybe even, or restaurant and rooftop bar, or whatever it might be, you know, that I can still have that in a building where I have a non-serviced apartment per se, where the housekeeper comes in every 2 days instead of every day or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think the opportunities are vast for that, and you know, diversifying risk within a single asset or within a complex, I think, you know, has to be very interesting. And you know, I've seen it personally through my career as well, where, you know, when I certainly started out in and around service apartments, or even before I went into it, quite often it was, well, we've got a bit of space left in this building, and it's a hotel, but we've got a bit of space left. Or what could we do? Well, how about we do some apartments? To actually, we're now building a building that is purely for this. And of course, you know, we want, once you have a core product, and you could argue that service apartment is the core product, you've then got the offshoots of that. And you know, the apart hotel has been around a long time, but I think that is starting to now become more of a sophisticated offer. It's becoming more lifestyle in its feel. I think you then look back to sort of co-living, which is where you're taking, you know, smaller individual units, but much greater communal space. And you know, why does that happen? They meet the demands and challenges around affordability, around, you know, the loneliness and community, and that kind of user demand for a stay that could range from, you know, a week through to a year. And how do you meet that? So I think there's room for lots of different types of products. I think there's room for different brands. I think there's room for operators to work within and across the different concepts. And as you say, do it within the same building as well. We think it's a very, very interesting area.
Yeah, no, I think it's very exciting, and again, I think it's due to the pandemic that we have learned to work from home, or not even home. Many of us were stuck somewhere, or many of us have said, you know what, I don't want to be stuck there, and there is a window of opportunity to travel somewhere else. You know, where I live, Cape Town has you know, tried, and I think they've gotten a couple of steps further now with some special visas and whatever to do to accommodate digital nomads who you know, will come for 3 months, 6 months, a year to do their work for companies that are not based in South Africa, and they do it in South Africa and spend their salaries or their profits, hopefully as well, in the country. Paul, certainly a conversation that requires much more time than we have. Certainly a conversation that I hope that we will be able to have a further one once you sort of I don't know, maybe in 6 months' time, once you're in the first 6 months of the first project, which is the future living thing, then we can maybe do a catch up. That would be lovely. We do one anyway as colleagues and soon to be friends, hopefully, when we have the first pint in real life, because the virtual pint doesn't taste so nice. Paul Rands, I thank you so much for your time. I wish you well with the Future of Hospitality Institute, and we'll chat very soon. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Niels. Thanks. Good to speak.